My name is Poppy Carter. I am 32 years old. Let me tell you something about small town fundraisers in Fargo. They are supposed to be the kind of wholesome evening where everyone smiles for the cameras, clinks glasses for a good cause, and pretends the past never happened. I showed up that night thinking it would be exactly that. I had just flown back a full day early from a regional logistics conference in Minneapolis because my boss wanted me to close a big contract before the weekend, and I figured I could surprise my family by slipping into the community center event my parents had been bragging about for weeks. It was for the local food bank, nothing flashy, just tables of potluck casseroles and a silent auction. I walked in wearing the same navy blazer I had worn on stage earlier that day, still buzzing from the presentation I had nailed, and the first thing I saw was my mother standing at the front microphone like she owned the room. My father was right beside her, nodding along with that tight little smile he gets when he is about to drop something heavy. My older brother stood off to the side with his arms crossed, looking bored but ready. I waved, expecting the usual quick hug and good to see you, kiddo. Instead, my mother's eyes locked on me across the crowded hall, and she tapped the mic twice. The room quieted. She smiled the way people do right before they twist the knife. "Well, look who decided to grace us with her presence," she said, voice sweet as syrup, but carrying that edge I had heard since I was a teenager. Poppy here has been so busy chasing her big, important career that she almost missed supporting her own hometown. But that is nothing new, is it? A few people chuckled nervously. I felt my stomach drop. She was not done. She leaned in closer to the mic like she was sharing a secret with the whole room. "Some of you may not know this, but our daughter has a habit of burning bridges when things get too real. Remember that messy situation a couple years back with her ex, the one where she packed up and left town for a week without telling anyone? We had to smooth things over with half the neighborhood because she could not handle a simple adult conversation. That is the kind of reliability we are dealing with, folks." She laughed, light and airy, as if it was all just good fun. My father jumped in right on cue, voice booming so the back tables could hear. "Now, Marilyn, let us not be too hard on her. She is trying, but it would be nice if she stuck around long enough to actually help the family instead of running off every time the spotlight gets a little bright." My older brother smirked and muttered loud enough for the people near him to catch it. "Yeah, some of us actually show up when it matters." The room shifted. I could feel the eyes on me, whispers starting already. My best friend Aspen was standing near the dessert table and her face went pale. She started pushing through the crowd toward me. My colleague Willow, who had come because our company sponsored a table, looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. I stood there, frozen, the words hitting me one after another like little punches I had not seen coming. This was not some offhand comment. This was calculated. My mother had taken the most painful private thing I had ever shared with her in confidence and turned it into public entertainment, all while smiling like the perfect Fargo mom. I managed to keep my voice steady when I finally stepped forward. "Mom, Dad, this is not the time or the place." My mother tilted her head, all innocence. "Oh, sweetheart, we are just being honest. The community deserves to know who they are supporting, especially when certain people are always talking about moving on to bigger things. You would not want anyone getting the wrong idea about your commitment, would you?" The way she said, "commitment," made my skin crawl. It was the same tone she used when I told them about my promotion interview last month, the one that might mean traveling more, but would finally let me build something that was mine. That was when the first real chill hit me. They were not just embarrassing me, they were trying to make sure everyone in this room remembered me as the flaky daughter, the unreliable one, the girl who could not be trusted with anything important. My father leaned over and added almost conversationally, "We love you, Poppy. That is why we are saying this. Maybe it is time you came back to the house for a while so we can help you get your priorities straight." My older brother nodded like it was the most reasonable suggestion in the world. I could see a couple of my neighbors exchanging looks. People I had grown up with, people who suddenly seemed unsure whether to smile at me or look away. Aspen finally reached me and grabbed my arm. "Poppy, you do not have to listen to this," she whispered, but her voice shook. Willow was right behind her phone in hand, like she did not know whether to record or call someone. The room felt smaller, the air thicker, and I realized right then that whatever was happening had been building for longer than this one evening. My mother had not just decided to roast me on the spot. She had prepared the lines. She had made sure my father and my older brother were on the same page, and she had picked the one night when half my professional circle would be watching. I forced a smile that felt like broken glass and said, "I think I will grab some coffee and let everyone enjoy the rest of the night." But as I turned toward the back exit, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from an unknown number, but the wording was pure. "My mother, we are not done talking. Meet us at the house after this. There are things you need to hear before you make any more selfish decisions." I stared at the screen while the auctioneer tried to move the program forward and the crowd pretended nothing had happened. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. The drive back to my little duplex on the edge of town felt longer than the flight from Minneapolis. I kept replaying my mother's voice on that microphone, the way my father had nodded along like it was gospel, my older brother's smirk. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I was running on pure adrenaline and the kind of anger that makes your teeth hurt. I had barely killed the engine when I saw my neighbor Magnolia Thompson's porch light flip on. She stepped outside in her robe, waving me over like she had been waiting. Magnolia has lived next door for 6 years. She is the kind of woman who brings over zucchini bread when she knows you have had a rough day and never asks for anything in return. Tonight, she looked worried. "Poppy, I heard what happened at the fundraiser," she said, before I could even say hello. "Your mother called me yesterday afternoon asking if I had noticed you coming home late a lot lately. Said she was concerned about your lifestyle choices and wanted to make sure the neighborhood was looking out for you. I told her you were a grown woman with a good job, but she kept pushing. Mentioned something about you thinking you are too good for Fargo now." My stomach twisted tighter. So it was not just the event. My mother had been laying groundwork. I thanked Magnolia and walked inside, flipping on the lights and dropping my bag on the couch. That was when I noticed the note on my kitchen counter written in my father's blocky handwriting. "We let ourselves in earlier to drop off some things. Call us when you get home. This is important." They had used the spare key I had given them for emergencies 2 years ago, the same key I now regretted ever handing over. I crumpled the note and sat down hard at the table, mind racing. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Willow from work. "Hey, that was rough tonight. A couple people from the office were asking me if everything is okay with you. Your mother texted my boss yesterday saying you might need time off for family reasons. I told him it was nonsense, but heads up." I stared at the message until the screen went dark. They had contacted my job. They had talked to my neighbor. They had stood up in front of 200 people and painted me as unstable, unreliable, and selfish. All because I had dared to mention in passing last month that the promotion I was up for might involve occasional travel out of state. My parents did not want me traveling. They did not want me succeeding on my own terms. They wanted me right here in Fargo, close enough to control, small enough that they could keep rewriting my story whenever it suited them. I called Aspen next. She picked up on the first ring. "I am so sorry," she said before I could speak. "Your mother pulled me aside before the event and asked if I thought you were handling stress well. I told her you were killing it at work. She just smiled and said, 'We will see.'" Aspen's voice cracked. "Poppy, this feels coordinated, like they have been planning it." I swallowed hard and asked her to come over. 20 minutes later, she was on my couch with her laptop open, helping me scroll through every social media post and group chat we could access. That was when the second mini cliffhanger of the night hit. A private message popped up on my work Slack from a client I had been courting for months. Hey, Poppy. I heard from your family that you are going through some personal challenges. We still on for the follow-up meeting next week, or should we reschedule until things settle? I felt the blood drain from my face. My parents had reached the client. They had used my own success against me, turning every connection I had built into a liability. Aspen looked at me eyes wide. You need to document all of this. Screenshots, timestamps, everything. She was right. But as I started saving messages, another text came through from my mother. We are outside. Open the door. We need to talk before this gets any worse for you. I walked to the window, and sure enough, their car was parked at the curb engine, running my father in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead, while my mother scrolled on her phone like she had all the time in the world. I took a deep breath and opened the door, stepping back just enough to let the cold night air rush in behind them. My mother walked straight past me without a word, at first her heels clicking on the tile like she owned the place, and dropped her purse on my kitchen counter as if this were still her house. My father followed, closing the door quietly behind my older brother, who leaned against the wall with that same smirk from the fundraiser still plastered on his face. Well, that was quite the exit you made tonight, wasn't it? My mother said, turning to face me with that sweet smile that never reached her eyes. Walking out in the middle of a community event like some dramatic teenager. You embarrassed the whole family in front of everyone who matters in Fargo. But I suppose that is just your way of reminding us you are too important for little things like loyalty now. Her words landed like a slap wrapped in velvet, and she did not even pause for me to respond. Your big career chase is cute and all, but it is time you faced facts. That promotion you keep bragging about. The one with all the travel, you are turning it down. End of story. We need you here contributing like a real daughter, instead of gallivanting around pretending you are some high-powered executive. My father nodded right on cue, crossing his arms as he settled into my living room chair. Your mother is right, Poppy. We have put up with this independence phase long enough. It is affecting how people see us now. The business your older brother is trying to build needs the family name to stay solid, not dragged through the mud, because you cannot be bothered to show up when it counts. My older brother chuckled low, pushing off the wall. Yes, sis. Some of us actually stick around and do the work instead of running off every time life gets real. Mom and Dad have been covering for you for years. I felt my chest tighten, but I kept my voice even. Covering for me by calling my client and telling my boss I need time off for family reasons. By texting my neighbor yesterday to question my lifestyle. That is not covering. That is sabotage. My mother's laugh was sharp and quick, the kind that cut deeper than any shout. Sabotage. Oh, honey, we are protecting you from yourself. You think that fancy job is going to fill the hole you are digging. It will not. And if you take that promotion, you will be gone half the year, leaving us to explain to everyone why our daughter abandoned her roots again. We already smoothed things over with half the Chamber of Commerce after your little disappearing act last year. Do not make us do it again. The room felt smaller with every word, and that was when the first real twist of the night hit me like a freight train. My phone buzzed on the counter, and before I could grab it, my mother glanced at the screen and raised an eyebrow. Go ahead, answer it. I bet it is work wondering why their star employee suddenly looks so unreliable. It was Willow, my colleague, texting that our boss Derek Lawson had just pulled her aside after the event. He had received a concerned call from my parents earlier that day, hinting that my personal issues might affect client meetings. Derek wanted to know if I needed to step back from the big contract we had been chasing for months. I stared at the message, blood roaring in my ears. They had gone after my job directly. I set the phone down slowly, meeting my mother's gaze. You called Derek. You actually tried to get me sidelined at work. She shrugged, completely unbothered, like we were discussing the weather. Someone had to. You are 32 years old and still acting like the world revolves around your little ambitions. We have a family reputation to uphold here in Fargo, and your constant running around is making us look weak. Turn down the promotion. Come back to the house for a few months. Help your older brother with the business launch like a good sister should. It is the least you can do after everything we have sacrificed for you. My father leaned forward, then his voice lower but just as firm. We are not asking Poppy. We are telling you what is best. If you keep pushing this career nonsense, we will have no choice but to make sure the right people know exactly how flaky you can be. We have already spoken to a few of your old contacts. They understand family comes first. My older brother jumped in with a grin that made my skin crawl. And if you think this is bad, wait until the whole town hears about that time you bailed on Mom's surgery recovery last summer. We have receipts, sis. Texts, emails, everything. That was the second mini cliffhanger that nearly knocked the wind out of me. Receipts. I had flown back early from a work trip that weekend because my mother's minor procedure had been rescheduled, but they had twisted even that into proof of my selfishness. I grabbed my phone again and dialed the one person I knew could cut through the noise. Dr. Hazel Daniels picked up on the second ring. She had been my therapist for the last year and a half, ever since the stress of balancing work and family expectations started chipping away at me. Poppy, it is late. Everything okay? Her voice was calm, steady, the exact opposite of the storm in my living room. I stepped into the kitchen for a shred of privacy and gave her the quick version, my voice barely above a whisper. She listened without interrupting, then said, "This sounds like classic autonomy control wrapped in concern. They are trying to isolate you professionally and socially, so you have nowhere to turn but back to them. Document everything. Screenshots, call logs, the works. And Poppy, you do not owe them your life. If you need to set boundaries, I can help you prepare for that conversation." Her words gave me the first real anchor I had felt all night. I thanked her and hung up, but before I could even turn around, my mother was already in the doorway, arms crossed. "Talking to your little therapist again. That is cute. Does she know how you abandon your own blood when it suits you? We saw the appointment history on your shared calendar last month. You are wasting money on someone who tells you what you want to hear instead of facing reality." I felt the anger shift into something colder, sharper. They had even gone through my calendar. This was not new. This had been simmering for years. Every promotion, every trip, every step I took away from their version of what a daughter should be. My father stood up then, his face serious. "We are leaving the spare key on the table. Use it to come home tomorrow and talk like adults, or we keep making calls. Your choice." My older brother added one last jab as they headed for the door. "Yeah, think about it. Some of us do not get to play independent forever." The door clicked shut behind them, and I stood there alone for a long moment, the silence heavier than any shout. I started saving every text, every message, every whisper of rumor I could find. Aspen texted me right then saying she had heard from a mutual friend that my parents had already started a group chat with half the neighborhood framing me as the one who needed family intervention. The isolation was spreading faster than I could track. But that was not even the worst part. As I opened my work email to forward the client note to myself, a new message popped up from HR. The subject line read, "Confidential discussion regarding recent family concerns." My hands shook as I clicked it open. The email was short, professional, and devastating. Derek Lawson had flagged my performance for review because of multiple reports of personal instability from family sources. They wanted a meeting first thing Monday. I sank onto the couch, the words blurring on the screen, realizing my parents had just lit the fuse on the one thing I had built entirely on my own. And if I did not find a way to stop them now, everything I had worked for in Fargo and beyond was about to go up in smoke. The next morning, I met Olive Morgan at her office downtown before the sun had fully cleared the horizon. She reviewed every screenshot, every call log, and every witness statement I had compiled overnight. "This is solid," she said, her tone crisp and reassuring. "We can send a formal cease and desist today, demanding they stop all contact with your employer, clients, and neighbors. If they ignore it, we escalate to defamation proceedings. You are not powerless here, Poppy." I left her office feeling steadier, the legal weight behind me like armor. By noon, my parents were at my door again, but this time I was ready. My mother stormed in first, her face flushed. "You think a lawyer changes anything? We are your family. We made you. Turning down the promotion is the only way to fix this mess you created." My father echoed her immediately. "The Chamber of Commerce is reviewing grants for local businesses, and your older brother's venture needs the family name clean. Your little reputation issues are jeopardizing everything." My older brother, who had come along uninvited, tried a different angle, his voice dripping with fake concern. "Come on, sis. You know Mom and Dad only want what is best. Remember when you almost lost that first job out of college because you refused to stay local? We bailed you out then. Do not make us do it again." I held up my phone, the cease and desist draft already sent. "No more bailing. No more interference. This ends today, or you hear from Olive Morgan in court." The look on my mother's face shifted from fury to shock. She had not expected me to fight back with proof. Later that afternoon, I sat across from Derek Lawson in his office. He slid a folder across the desk. "I reviewed everything you sent. The company stands with you. The promotion is locked in, travel and all. Any further family contact to staff will be treated as harassment." Relief washed over me, but the real victory came 2 weeks later when the Chamber of Commerce denied my older brother's grant over reputation concerns. Magnolia Thompson called me the same day with the neighborhood gossip update. "Your mother tried to spin it, but people are starting to see the full picture now." 1 month after the fundraiser, my mother sent one last text laced with guilt. "We never meant for it to go this far. The family image is crumbling without you here to support us." I blocked the number without replying. I kept my duplex, kept my travel schedule, and started therapy sessions with Dr. Hazel Daniels twice a month instead of once, because choosing myself turned out to require actual work. Aspen and Willow became the sisters I never had, showing up with takeout and laughs on the hard days. Magnolia still brings zucchini bread, but now she does it with a proud little wink. The best part, I finally understood that their control was never about love. It was about keeping their perfect Fargo image intact at my expense. I took my life back, and they lost the one thing they valued most, the ability to dictate who I became. That is the lesson that still sits with me every time I board a plane for work or close another deal. Family is not supposed to sabotage your future to protect their pride. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from the people who only want you small enough to fit their narrative. I did that, and I have never been freer. Thank you for listening to my story. It still stings a little when I think about that night at the fundraiser, but telling it reminds me how far I have come. If you have ever had parents try to shrink your dreams to fit their comfort, drop a comment below. What would you have done in my shoes? Choosing yourself is the ultimate payback, even when it means losing the version of family you thought you had.